What are you seeing as a pure boxer going when you watch Bare Knuckle?
We need to kind of make some adjustments because smart fighter always adapts. So right now, these guys you're seeing in the sport, they're on their last straw, to be honest. These guys had a career already. They already did what they needed to do in the sport. And so now they're on their last like hoorah. And they're like, okay, there's this bare knuckle fighting thing. It's blowing up. Let's go out there and just go out on a bang, right? Yeah, you can learn how to fight. Yeah, you can learn how to do this, that. But ultimately, the real secret weapon to boxing for people, ordinary people, is the amount of stress that you burn and you don't have to carry around with you.
They'll kind of like make fun of you in like a dark humorous way, but they mean that shit. They're like, you're sitting out, bro. If you're sitting out and just because you're tired, that means your technique sucks.
The energy needs to be delivered in your punches. Use that aggression, use those emotions to deliver the shot, nice and sharp.
All right, coach. You know, the deeper I get into like combat sports, right? I did start with boxing, didn't make much of a career out of it. But I got into MMA and, you know, Muay Thai and stuff like that. The more I get into it, the more like taxing, I guess you could say is the word, how boxing is. Like I was saying, it's like, it's a game of attrition. Not that MMA isn't like, you know, you have to put in all this work, you have to know all these like disciplines like jiu-jitsu and grappling and stuff like that. But boxing to me, it's like the upper body and then you got your feet. So knowing that, you have to kind of like focus in on the detail, right? Knowing that, yeah, you have two weapons over here, your hands. What do you think about that? Like I've thought about that a lot recently because it seems so like heavy focus specific to where like if you get in combat sports, right, in an MMA match, you can grapple, you know, if you're good at grappling, you could go straight to grappling or try to go straight into grappling, or you could stand up. Like you have all these options. And again, it's as taxing, but boxing seems to be like different because you're focusing in on that like one discipline.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about MMA and sports like that, there's definitely been a huge shift, right? Over the course of the last like 8 to 10 years, you've seen a lot of these MMA guys try to do a little bit more stand-up, right? They're standing up, they're striking a little bit more, they got striking coaches, boxing coaches, things like that. And the truth is, when you get punched in the face, it changes the whole game, right?
Yeah.
So if your mind isn't set on like, boom, okay, I know what to do, pop, 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 come right back, it changes the whole game entirely, right? So I think a lot of these guys started to realize like, all right, I'm getting punched in the face, I need to make adjustments, like I need a boxing coach. And so they started seeking boxing coaches to improve their striking game, their counter game, their catch and shoot, all those things, right? Even in bare knuckle boxing, we're seeing a lot of these MMA guys switch over to bare knuckle boxing, but they're getting cracked, right? You can see them go down 5, 6 times in a match. It's super intense.
You know, interesting about that, I'm glad that you brought that bare boxing up. As a coach, you see in boxing all your life, you see like the subtleties in bare boxing. I mean, for me, it's kind of like I know a little bit about boxing, but not like as knowledgeable as you. What are some of the mistakes that people are making? Because it's mostly like MMA guys that go in there, like Stevens and Alvarez. What are you seeing as a pure boxer going when you watch bare knuckle?
Yeah, so it caught my attention because, you know, you're seeing all these highlight knockouts and you're like, what the heck is this thing? And you're seeing these guys come out, these girls come out with these faces swollen, just cut up, beat the heck up. I'll tell you what, the cutmen really have their jobs cut out because they have some serious patching up to do, right? But yeah, what I'm seeing mistake-wise in these matches is they're basically going out there and they're swinging for the fences. I mean, there's no real setup or technique taking place. It's just like, all right, I got my hands and that's it. Let's go, all out. And then, you know, they land this crazy shot and it's like, boom, dropped. There's not really the sophistication of boxing, hitting and moving, slipping and countering. I believe Austin Trout was in there. He's a good rangy, long distance boxer. I think he did really well. But that's the difference, right? We're limiting a sport to just the hands. And so these guys that aren't trained as well as the boxers are, where they've done that only their whole lives and that's the only thing they think about, the MMA guy's still thinking about the takedown, the feet,
the habits, right?
The things that they're used to doing, right? So I don't want to say that boxing has a huge competitive edge, but in a way it kind of does when you eliminate you basically are saying like, okay, you don't have any legs anymore, you don't have any, you can't tackle somebody, you could only use your hands. And so when they're limited these two weapons, they're like, what do I do now? It's kind of like that oh shit moment, right?
Yep.
And they're just like, all right, let's just swing, right?
Yeah.
What I see for these guys is if they weather that initial like, I'm going to come out and take your head off, these guys are going to get gassed. You can't swing full speed at somebody and expect not to get tired when you miss 3, 4, 5, 6 of these shots. So if these guys are a little bit more patient and don't rush to get the knockout, I think you're going to see a huge shift in bare knuckle boxing. Right now it's that exciting like, oh, go, right? But in time, you're going to see a transition to these guys actually try to box and move and counterpunch and set things up where it's not just going out there and banging, because these guys are getting jacked up. These guys aren't going to last very long in the sport.
It looks brutal, but at the same time, isn't that entertainment purposes?
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of, I know a pure-hearted, kind of growing up with boxing, you want to stick to like traditions, but now it's showmanship, it sells tickets, Conor McGregor's running the thing, and it's just like, well, isn't that kind of what you want to see, right? So when you say like the transition shift, I'm as a fan of just the art and movement, just in general, I'd like to see what you were talking about, right? Like to have the sport transition range, maybe take your time a little bit. But do you really think it's headed that way since what I just mentioned?
So I always think like I'm a forward thinker. So I think 5, 10, 15 years out. So right now, this first initial 3 to 5 years is going to be exactly what you talked about, the excitement, the knockouts, the boom, but this or that. But then you're going to see the medical records come out, and they're going to be like, dude, this guy's fractured orbital. Oh, this guy's jaw's broken. Oh, this guy has this. And you're going to see a shift. This guy's got this huge dent in the top of his head. You're going to see the shift in going, okay, this is pretty dangerous and it's pretty violent.
Yeah.
We need to kind of make some adjustments, right? Because smart fighter always adapts, right? So right now, these guys you're seeing in the sport, they're on their last straw, to be honest. These guys had a career already. They already did what they needed to do in the sport. And so now they're on their last like hoorah, and they're like, okay, there's this bare knuckle fighting thing, it's blowing up. Let's go out there and just go out on a bang, right?
Yeah.
It's hard for a fighter to give it up. They don't know when to hang them up, right? And so right now they're going in there like, I'm going all out.
Balls
this
to the
is
wall.
it, right? And that's why you're getting these exciting like knockout shots and these fights that are just brutal and bloody. But I guarantee you, after that 5-year period, it's going to completely shift. And you're going to see guys move, you're going to see guys box, and you're going to look back at this podcast and you're going to go, that Coach Rolly guy?
Yeah.
He was right. Right.
Very good. Yeah, I mean, for sure. That, like I said, that's exactly what I want to see. It's just the fans. It's almost like you got to give them what they want.
Yeah.
And going along like bare knuckle boxing, of course, it's a little bit different from your traditional boxing, where I guess you could say like pillows on the hands, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much, you have these protection guards. You guard a different way. Whereas I guess in boxing, things could just get through.
Yeah. I mean,
right?
just on that particular topic alone, when you have a glove on, again, it's like a pillow, it's like a cushion, so you're able to block shots. And boom, it's padded, it's not gonna hurt. If you don't have that padding and you go to block a shot and you get hit on the top of the hand, there's a ton of bones up here, your hand's gonna shatter.
Yes.
So the blocking kind of goes back to that traditional MMA style where they bring it up and they use a little bit more of the forearm. Yeah. But again, it's bare knuckle boxing. So these guys should really be using slips and rolls. They should not be trying to catch these shots, to be honest.
Yeah, slips.
It's a little bit different. So of course, bare knuckle boxing is a completely different shift, a completely different direction, a new thing, a new system. It's exciting as hell.
Yeah.
But again, you're gonna see some shift in the way they do these things.
Right.
Right. So far as a boxing enthusiast, I don't see a lot of footwork. I don't see a lot of dodging. I don't see a lot of, I see guys going in there. I got one round, I'm gonna give it all I got, I'm gonna knock this guy out.
Yeah.
And you see guys go down 5-6 times, and then one of them can't get up anymore, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and agreed. We'll talk about the basics because I think that's where everything stems from, whatever you're doing in life, right? But to stick to what we're talking about how you're gonna see it from 5 years because of the longevity of the sport, for you as a coach and training all these fighters, what's your methodology and how you prevent, like injuries, CTE, trauma, and all that?
I mean, bottom line is footwork and defense, right? Everybody can punch. You get anybody in here like, hey, I've had 3 street fights. I'm tough. I can take a punch.
Wait, sorry to cut you off. What do you like say to the fighter, and what do you think yourself when someone comes in and saying that? Because I've had a lot of that too as a coach.
No, of course. So it's been 15 years of coaching, right? So I've probably had over a dozen guys come in like that. Even when I was training out of Alliance for years when I was competitive, we had these monster guys come in. Hey, I'm here to fight, and what did my coach do? Hey, Rolly, come here. Dude, you kidding? This guy outweighs me by like 120 pounds.
Right.
But there was no weight classes. It was just like, hey, you're gonna spar this guy. So I was the test dummy for all these guys because I had a great chin and good defense.
Yeah.
And
were you seasoned by that time already? Like you?
Yeah, I had probably 3-4 years under my belt. So these guys would come out again, all heavy, and I'm just sitting there patiently waiting, weathering the storm, and then all right, this guy's winded. My turn. Boom, 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 boom. Done. Right? Your shot selection, your defense, your footwork, all these things are tools that are going to take those guys out immediately. So even though these guys think on the streets they're tough guys, yeah, you got nothing on, you're swinging the fences, you're usually catching these guys off guard, you're rushing these guys aren't even ready for it. But when you come into a boxing gym where guys train every single day to do this stuff, and they've seen every single punch thrown at them, right? Yeah. They know what you're gonna throw. Right. The street guy, this is all he got, the haymaker, the right hand, right? So what's one of the first things we teach somebody is how to avoid that. So when they come in here trying to use their best weapon that's knocked out all these guys on the street, that's not gonna work here. And you're gonna get tired after the first minute, and you're gonna get picked apart, and the sweet science is gonna be displayed, and you're basically gonna quit. And you're never gonna walk in here again because you were embarrassed. So it's a very big, humbling experience that I've seen in the past. Like these guys come in, I got this. Okay, let's see what you got. I'm not trying to hurt them, but I'm trying to teach them that there's a sweet science to this, and it's skills that are developed over time. And you can't just walk into a place and be like, I'm the toughest guy that's ever lived. Okay, let's see it. Put him in with a lighter guy, he can't even hit him. He's getting winded, he's starting to doubt himself, and then he's getting counterpunched, and then he's getting hit in that body. And next thing you know, he's huffing and puffing, he's down on one knee, he's shaking his head, he's saying no more. And that basically changes the course of his life.
Yeah, and that seems to be like the virality of like YouTube videos nowadays, where, you got the bodybuilder coming in to the boxing gym, you got Bradley Martin saying 280, and all that. But then, that's where it lies in the technique. And one thing that sticks out to me when you just said that was about the pacing. And I always like to say this, exhaustion makes a coward out of all of us. So if you don't know how to pace and like your technique, and then your hands start going down, it's like, okay, well, you just came in here testosterone filled and then, confident filled. And you just, like you said, pretty much just got a reality check. And I think that's what humbles fighters, and that could either make you or kind of break you, right? It's almost like if that's what's going to decide if you stay, if you could put that ego aside.
There's many tests that you're going to encounter on your boxing journey. And one of those tests could be you're a tough guy, you walk in and you get humbled right away. You're either going to accept that as a human being and go, okay, I got some stuff to learn, right? Or you're going to go, that place just wasn't for me. You're gonna make every excuse that you can to say, hey, that's not for me. Let me go try this place over here, right? But the reality is you're gonna face all these walls on your boxing journey, and you're gonna have to figure out how to get over these walls. And every time you get over one of those walls, it builds your character, it builds your tool belt, right? I like to talk about the tool belt. There's tons of tools on my belt, right? And you need different tools for different situations. So that's one of the first obstacles you face. Don't give up. Go back, see what you can learn. Why did those guys beat you? What did they do to you that made you crumble? That happened to me. I walked in the gym and I was like, I know what I'm doing already. Got in there, I did what I could, got beat up. I got beat up for 4 years. For 4 years.
And by the boxing, man. And in boxing, man. You know what I mean?
One of the things I never did was quit. I had a good chin. I had great stamina. I took a beating. There was times where I drove home with 2 black eyes, driving stick, ice pack on my thing, trying to shift on the freeway. Luckily, okay, let me ice this one. There was moments I couldn't even drink out of a straw. I couldn't even eat. I had to drink out of a straw.
Oh,
my jaw was hurting so much. There was times where the ribs got bruised. You're sitting there for 6 to 8 weeks. The most recent one, this is the worst. My hand is just destroyed right now.
Was that from like competing, or is that sparring?
Just sparring.
Okay, yeah.
Trading hooks, and threw a big left hook, and he pulled back, I pulled back, and I hit his bicep and just shattered my arm.
Just a miss.
Didn't think anything of it. Just kept going, and then once I got out, I cooled down, and I felt the pressure. I was like, "Ooh, it's been 6 weeks now." Right. So it reminds you, though, the importance of taking care of your body. I should have wrapped my hands a little bit better that day.
Sure.
I should have put some tape over them, right? So again, everything's a learning experience. You're going to encounter so many things along your journey that they're lessons. They're not things that maybe I'm not that good. No. It's a big mental battle. But we're kind of getting off subject, so let's reroute it and get to where we need.
No, I like where it's going, because that's what the podcast is about. It's about like a psychological kind of like, how do you get through like tough times like that, right? Like, not just physically, but like emotionally. How do you get back into the ring? It's almost like if you just based on a sparring session, right?
So to touch on that subject, there were so many times in my journey that like my nose was jacked, right? And coach was like, "Oh, you're sparring today." I'm like, "It's tender, But you're gonna listen to your coach. If he says, "Hey, get in there," you're gonna get in there.
Do you think that that's the right thing to do, though?
Well, here's what it did for me. It made me so much more aware of not getting hit in that nose, because it was so tender that, hey, guess what? Today, I'm actually moving my head.
Right.
Guess what? Today, I'm actually catching those shots. I'm not just, okay, let's see what you got. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, that's it. Pop, pop, pop.
Walk forward,
It's forcing me to use my defense. So in a way, at first, I was like, this kind of sucks. The old school way, right? No, you're going to get in there anyway. We sparred 6 days a week. For 4 years,
a week.
we sparred 6 days a week. I calculated getting hit in the head 100,000 times.
Jesus,
I mean, that's
dude.
a lot of hits.
That hurts me right now thinking about that.
That's a lot of hits, right?
It's giving me a headache.
Black eyes, bruised ribs, sore neck, sore jaw. Man, it was bad, but kept going. Kept going. So there's a lot of mental battles I encountered, one of them being the nose, right? The other one was being the jaw. Sometimes your eye was black. It took a couple of days to heal up. It was still tender, but hey, get back in there. Again, it made me work on my defense. I had 0 defense when I started. Okay, so now fast forward to 15 years later, let's say 10, I'm experiencing the same thing in my students that I went through. So I'll give you an example. The other day we had a kid that kind of just stood there and he ate a big right hand right on the nose. First time he got a bloody nose. Busted his nose, he's bleeding.
Was it broken?
No.
Okay.
It was okay. It wasn't that bad. It was just the weather's dry. He's a little easier, more prone to bleed.
Put a Band-Aid on it. I got it.
So he's bleeding, and so the coaches at the time, they said, "Hey, that's good. Let's stop it." So they stopped him, pulled him out. They're holding his nose, making sure it's good. And I look over and I say, "Hey, you okay?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm good, ready to go." And right there, that told me a lot about his mind game. He wasn't like, "Oh, coach, I'm bleeding. I've never seen blood." It told me right there that this kid is not scared of blood. He's not scared of getting hurt, and he's ready to get back in there. Doesn't mean, all right, get back in there, you're okay, right? But right there, I took note of that, and I said, okay, this kid's got the mental toughness that it takes. There's other examples so that's a good example, right? Another example would be a kid that's gushing blood and he's looking over you in the ring like, stop this, stop this, please. I'm bleeding all over, and he's got blood all over his gloves, all over his shirt. And you're like, okay, time, right? You pull him back to the corner and he comes back to the corner and he's like, he's giving into the panic of just ketchup.
The psychological
blood,
kind
right?
of,
He's never seen himself bleed, he's freaking out. And so a coach's job is to cool him down. Hey, it's just ketchup, You ever bled before? No, never. Okay, well, I've had 1,000 bloody noses. You're not gonna die, right? You're reassuring him, you're calming him down, you're talking in a tone that's gonna cool him down. Wipe the blood, you're like, see, you already stopped bleeding, right? You'll be all right. It's not bad, I've seen worse.
Right.
At least your nose isn't crooked.
Sure, could always be worse,
So those are two different examples, right? You got one guy who's like, I'm ready to go. That's kind of how it was. Or you got a guy that's freaking out and he might quit that day. He literally might go, this isn't for me, I'm done, right? But you need to reassure him that this is part of the process. This is gonna happen. You have to go through that wall of busting your nose. I probably had my nose broken twice. There was times where I was gushing blood all over my arms, all over my opponent. I'm just gushing blood. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But see, blood, man, I'm good.
That was your like mental state just growing up though. Like you said, everyone's different. Everyone grows up different, right? You seem to come from that old school, like, let's not complain. And yeah, like you said, we can learn from every situation. And I love it because I think I've said this before in other podcasts, but then reframing is everything, right? You could look at it two ways. You can look at it two ways. You could be like, man, this sucks. Or you could be like, well, I could get better from this. Yeah. And
to touch on that subject, so when I was a kid, you got your metal bed frame, you know, you're a kid, you're running in bed, what happens? Bing! Oh, that pain of just running your shit into the bed, right? I'm sure some of you can relate. So you're running into bed, you're like excited, whatever, boom, and you're just like, oh, that pain, you know? At a young age, that happened to me like 100 times, and I just couldn't figure it out. Like, slow down before you get in the bed, you know, take your time, all right, there we go, avoid that. So what did I do is, that was like the first thing that I remember as a kid that started with me training my mind. I imagine a light switch, right? Turn the light on, pain. Turn the light off, pain's gone. So as soon as that happened, boom, what did I do with my mind? Ignore it, it's gone, turn it off, boom. It's hurting, but I'm giving zero attention to it, right? And now, all right, let's keep doing what I was doing. Boom, 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 boom. After a while, the pain goes away. It always goes away. You're not gonna sit there in pain the rest of your life. The pain is temporary. So at a young age, I figured that out, and that's what helped me when I became a fighter, right? And I thought back, like, how the heck did I build this mind of like, boom, most people, oh, that hurt, boom, cool, my turn, bop, bop, bop.
Yeah.
Light switch, instant. So I talk about that a lot to my students, you know? They fall, they scratch their knee, some of my kids' classes, they're bleeding. That's gonna go away. It's gonna hurt forever. Have you ever fallen before? Yeah, I have this scar right here. Does it still hurt? No. That's gonna happen the same with that leg. It's gonna go away.
Right.
That's just a reminder. Don't run so fast.
Sure. Lessons learned. Yeah, that's a great sense of awareness, and to be that young, right? Like what you just said. A lot of kids like me back then, I didn't think of that, right? Like it's just, it took a while to get off of that, like, oh, this hurts kind of thing. It's like overtime experience, right? It's kind of like being sick and tired of being sick and tired. It's kind of like you get hit in the face too many times. Well, you're gonna eventually put that hand up. It's like because you don't want to get hit. Some people just take longer than others to kind of realize that, right?
Some people never make the adjustment, you know? Some people are pretty stubborn, and you tell them over and over, hey, you gotta keep that right hand up. And they've eaten 1,000 left hooks and they still don't get that right hand up. Yeah. So that's when you say, hey, maybe this isn't for you. You know, you got to be honest with your fighters too. If they can't make the adjustments, if they're not coachable, if they can't do what's necessary to protect themselves, you got to protect them for you. And that's when you see some of the coaches throw in the towel, right? Yes. And you're like, what? Why'd you stop the fight? The fighter's never going to stop the fight. The ref and the doctor will definitely stop the fight. But sometimes as a coach, you know what camp looked like. You know what type of punishment he took. And if you go into that fight knowing that, you're thinking, okay, if he takes this, I know where this is gonna go, and it's not good. So you know where it's going, step in, that's it. I'm not saying, hey, throw in the towel all the time, but there's certain scenarios where you build these relationships with your fighters and you know them really well, and you care for their well-being and their health, right? And so sometimes you gotta do that tough decision of, hey, you know what, that's it.
Yeah, throw in the towel.
For the record, I've never done that, but
yeah. That must be a really hard decision as a coach because like emotionally you're invested is pretty much what you're saying, right? You work with these fighters all the time, you get to know them, and then some of them, it's almost like a lot of them look up to you as a father figure. I mean, that's going really deep, you know, into childhood. And I mean, luckily, like you just said, you never had to throw in the towel because I'm sure that you built these fighters up for like the mental game. That seems to be like your main objective to them, right?
I mean, I'll give you an example. Last night, I have a new fighter who just came down from up north. And I've only seen him spar once, but last night I wanted to test him, see where he's at. And he wasn't feeling too good. He came in with his mind not where it needed to be. I'm tired, I don't feel too good, I gotta go do this in a little bit. Those were all cues that he mentally wasn't really going into this the right way. And I knew I set him up with somebody who's really good. But I wanted to see where he's at. So he still went in there, did his thing. But after the first round, he came back, I'm pretty tired, you know, showing signs of
he was saying that after,
I'm pretty tired, I don't feel my legs are pretty gone. I said, okay, that's fine. Let's just keep seeing what you got. And it really got bad. We're to the point where he circled by and he said something. I didn't hear what he said. And it kept going, and then he was moving, and just taking way too much punishment. There was probably about 45 seconds left in the round. In sparring, I said, hey, that's it. Came back. He was really disappointed that I had to stop it. But that wasn't the point. I knew he was going into this in a tough state, right? And I just wanted to see where he was. Can he fight his way out of this? And he did at times, right? He was taking a lot of punishment. He came back, boom, 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 boom. Yeah. He was trying. He was trying to show me that he has what it takes. His conditioning is not where it needs to be yet, but it will be. And so I said, hey, everything's a lesson again. So after that sparring match, he was super disappointed. I said, I want you to remember this. And I want you to remember that guy. Because when I train you the way that you need to be trained, we're going to get revenge. We're going to see this guy again. We're going to get him. And what was his state of mind? Yes, coach. We're going to do that. Definitely.
Right.
You know, and that's what I want to see. So these are all building blocks in this journey of boxing. There's so many routes that you can go, but a good coach can identify these things and go, okay, this is where this kid needs help. This is where this kid needs help. And it all comes down to what you mentioned earlier, the mind. How mentally tough are you? How mentally prepared are you?
Yeah.
This is, everybody always says it. This is your number one opponent.
Yeah.
Right? That example I just gave, he was already psyching himself out. He was diminishing what his potential was going to be. Whereas this guy over here probably came in, I'm at a different gym, I'm going to show that I got what I got, I know these guys are pretty good here. He was ready, right? The second example, I took him out and I put another guy in. He had a bad stomach ache, right? But he showed out. He did great. He did real good, even though he was not fully there. But again, hey, I didn't do that good, yada, yada. When I feel better, and get him again. But that's the mind that I want. I want the mind that says, hey, I'm gonna get him. My journey, I told you, I got beat up for 4 years. I created a list of everybody that put a beating on me, right? And what did I do? As I got better, maybe a year, 2 years later, I went back to see those guys. And guess what happened? I got my revenge. That guy's done. Next guy. That guy's done. Next guy, that guy's done. I got everybody on that list. There's just one guy left. And I just happened to run into him.
Got that chip on your shoulder a little bit.
I got one guy left. I just happened to run into him. So I said, hey, why don't you come by sometime? So,
which at times is a great motivator. Right? Like it's fuel. Right. That's really what it is.
So these guys, I like them to have a list that they might experience defeat, but it doesn't mean that defeat's gonna stop you there. You're gonna get over that bump. And that bump is that person right there. So how do we prepare you to get over that hump? We look at how do they beat you? Okay, these are the punches that you were eating. How do we make the adjustments? These are the adjustments. What are the counter punches of this?
Are you a heavy film watcher on that, or are you
we
just...
film all of our sparrings.
Perfect.
All of them.
Perfect.
And I'll usually go home and study them, right? And then I'll send some highlight clips to the students so they could see, okay, this is what I'm talking about. And we also record because we want them to listen to us as we're coaching them in there. And a lot of times their mind isn't listening to us. And so when they go back and they study the tape and they hear us yelling these things, they're like, I didn't hear you in there, but now I see what you were saying. And so now it's kind of reinforcing the trust they have in us, because now they're looking at the tape, they're going, hit the body twice, hit the body twice. And in the ring, they're just like, they're not hitting the body twice. But the guy's hands were here, his body's wide open, that's what we're calling it. So now they're studying the tape and they're seeing it. Oh, that's why he was saying that. And so now next time they go in the ring and they hear us call something out, they're gonna be more likely to pull the trigger on what we're calling, because they trust us, because they see in the footage, oh yeah, he was right, it was open, right? So that's why we film our sparrings. That's why it's important to study the sparrings. And not just once, you look at it over and over and over. And you kind of create this trail of where you were in the beginning and where you got to. And so, yeah, super important.
That's a great, again, methodology, what you just said. A light bulb clicked with me there, because it makes your fighters more self-aware of, there's so much stimulus going on in the ring, right? I mean, pretty much you're just focusing on not getting hit and hitting back, and your footwork and all that, all the basics and all that. But then what you just said about like listening to your coach with everything that's going on, I know that like that's a part of, you know, when you're in the ring, but again, there's so much going on, and to have them be self-aware of like, hey man, like even though you're in the ring, it kind of slows them down a little bit. It's like, what's my coach saying? Because I'm a little bit in trouble. Or even if they're winning, it's almost like, wait, I got to be careful a little bit because I might get countered or something. So I think it's great. And I'm also a big proponent of that, about filming, your matches or sparring, just because, man, if it doesn't look right, it's probably not right? Yeah. Like a guy could be, have been doing this for years, and then he thought he did good in the sparring session. You look back at the tape, it's like, oh my God, it's just completely sloppy. His technique's off. Like he's just, it's not his day.
And at the later stages, it's actually the opposite. I have so many fighters that feel like they did horrible. And as we go on, some of the greatest fighters, they have a lot of these doubts. But you know what it is those doubts are what create you into this super fighter, because you're criticizing yourself so hard and you feel like you didn't perform at your best. And so now you're hitting that bag a little bit harder because you're frustrated, you're upset with your performance. But when they come back to the corner and they are thinking those things, I'm like, no, you're totally in control. You're landing this, and that. You're moving the right way. You're slipping and dodging the shots that need to be dodged. You're counter-punching. Everything looks good. But they don't believe that at the time. They go back, they look at the footage. Oh, shit, coach was right. Right? So instead of them diminishing their confidence in their performance, now they have tape to look back on. They're like, oh, dang, I did good.
Right.
But it's important to have that, because that's what drives you to be a better fighter.
Absolutely.
There were so many times I stepped out of the ring like, oh, dude, I did not do good. I did not do good, especially even now. And then I look at the tape and I'm like, okay, never mind. It looks pretty good. So, very important to film your
Is it just kind of a balance of both? Because I want to talk more about that, about we far too often we are our harshest critics, right?
Yeah.
And I look at my tapes all the time, right? I'll tape myself sparring in Muay Thai, and then I'll be like, damn, dude. And then you're just kind of harsh on yourself. You're just kind of like, oh man. But as I've grown and got more experience and gotten a little bit older, I've learned to tone that down. Yeah. Like I said, slowing things down. I don't think anything comes as far as fuel. I think anger and all that stuff, your drive, can get you to a certain point. But at some point, man, you need to be in that flow state. So you need to calm your epinephrine, your adrenalines and all that.
To touch on that subject, when your emotions kick in, let's say you're in a match and your emotions kick in and you allow your emotions to take over, that's when you lose the fight. You, at a certain point, you have to learn to regulate that fire, because that fire will burn you out.
Right.
When you're in the ring, it is so important to be nice and calm and relaxed, right? I'll take it back to a real basic one this might help somebody. When you have your gloves on, you don't have to make a fist the whole time, right? This is burning energy. This is tensing me up. This is tiring my forearms out. When my hands are in the glove, they're like this, nice and relaxed. Right. There's even points where I'm out of range, I'm just relaxed.
Your shoulders are relaxed and you're down, A
lot of old school guys, keep your hands up the whole time. Well, when you keep your hands up the whole time, what are you doing?
Tensing up.
You're activating those shoulders. You're having to keep those arms up, right? Nice and relaxed. I'm out of range. I'm not in a dangerous position. I'm moving. I'm taking my breather, right? I'm controlling the distance. So that alone is one thing. But your mind, you did something wrong. You got hit with a shot that you knew you were going to get hit with, and it frustrates you. It really frustrates you. Or you got put down, and you're like, this is... No, you have to cut those emotions out. You have to stay neutral, stay calm. The energy needs to be delivered in your punches. Use that aggression, use those emotions to deliver the shot, nice and sharp. That's where your energy needs to go.
Right.
Not here. I'm so frustrated, breathing harder, tensing up all over. No, reset, relax, be calm, be collective. Use energy for what you need, and that's to cause damage.
And usually, I think when a fighter in every combat sport hits their pinnacle, they're in a flow state, right? And I think that's what you're talking about too. Kind of regulate your emotions, use it to punch harder and stuff like that. But easier said than done, right? Since we are emotional human beings. What is your best tip on? I know you just talked about it a little bit, but what would you go to if you had to calm down a fighter if he's getting beat in the ring, right, for round, and you're like, look, man, you gotta take it easy. What's your best advice? What do you usually say to him in the corner?
Every situation's different, so it's hard to be like, what would you do in this situation? Because there's so many different situations that can happen. But let's say a fighter's in there and he's getting super emotional, super frustrated, and there's no real reason to it. Something happened outside the gym that caused him to come in with those emotions, right?
Yep.
Maybe he got in a fight with his wife or
Sure.
his girlfriend, or maybe he got let go, or maybe somebody cut him off on the road and it irritated him. That's why I always say it's really important to check your emotions at the door. You can't come in with that baggage.
Yeah.
You can't come in with that trailer of trash and luggage that you're towing around. You have to address those things and handle them, and that's communication. You need to make sure you take care of those things right away so that you're not carrying around this bag, this huge load of things.
Yeah.
Again, your state of mind has to be clear, right? So, but that's outside, right? So something happens in the ring, right? So first I want to make sure that they're cleared of that baggage,
Sure.
right? So as a coach, I'm also a therapist, right? So
Right.
I'm making sure I'm taking care of them in their relation, whatever's going on, right? So now that we're clear on that stage, something happens in the ring that irritates them. You hit them with a low blow. Oh, you hit me nuts, dude. That's
So dirty, yeah.
hit me behind the head, dude.
Yep.
He hit me with an elbow. He keeps tying me up. He keeps putting his weight on me, right? Are you gonna let that get thrown into your trailer?
Yeah, you got to adjust,
And you're
man.
gonna carry that thing,
Right.
There's a solution for every problem, right? There's always a solution. It's your job as a coach to give them the solution, okay? The guy's putting all his weight on me. Okay, use your legs. Don't let him get near you. The guy keeps hitting me behind the head. You're turning your head too much. That's why you're getting hit behind the head,
yep.
right? He keeps hitting me with the elbow. You're coming in too low at his elbow height. He's trying to create space, hitting you with the elbow. He keeps, putting his, whatever it is, right? You have to give them the adjustment. You have to reassure them that everything's gonna be okay. And you have to walk them through the process of curing the problem and coming up with the solution and being able to apply that solution and take control again.
Right.
But again, relax.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with it. This is just a little bump in the road. We're gonna get over it, right? We're gonna drive right over that thing, and we're gonna keep going.
Right. You know what's funny is that paradoxically, right, when you say, and that's a thing in like martial arts in general, right, across the board, whether it's MMA, jiu-jitsu, it's like check your ego at the door, right? It's kind of like you don't want your personal problems to be here. But paradoxically, it's funny because that's what brings people to the gyms, because they got to take out their anger, right?
Yeah.
Like they got to take out their stress, or whether it's hitting up the bag and all
this
that.
place is a big hub for that. Like a lot of people think like, oh, it's a boxing gym, we just make fighters, or it's just fitness, or this is such a huge point that I realized over the last few years, and even right now that my hands like pretty messed up. I can't work out like I work out. I'm 10 pounds heavier than I usually am.
Sure.
Right?
Frustrating a little bit.
It is.
Yeah.
And there's this extra like frustration you carry. It's so much easier to get irritated when you don't release that energy.
Jeez, yeah, tell me about
You're hitting that bag and you're tearing, you're letting everything, I'm letting out all my emotions, all this stuff that I carry around.
Yep.
When I'm hitting that bag.
Yep.
And I'm sweating it out, I'm breathing heavy, I'm putting everything I have into that bag. And guess what? I do it in the morning, and guess what? In the rest of the day, there's nothing that's gonna irritate me.
Yeah, it's a win.
There's nothing.
It's already,
Why?
yeah.
Because dude, I let it all out on the bag. I don't have extra energy.
Right.
To be like, hey, that guy cut me off, dude. What the heck?
Yeah.
Right? The guy cut me off. No big deal. Just a little bump in the road. Let's keep going. Right? So the boxing, like, yeah, you can learn how to fight. Yeah, you can learn how to do this, that. But ultimately, the real secret weapon to boxing for people, ordinary people, is the amount of stress that you burn and you don't have to carry around with you every single day.
Yeah.
That leads to these things like, So back to my hand. My hand's a little messed up. I have a 2-year-old daughter at home. Lately, I never get frustrated. Lately, Daddy, I need to go potty. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Daddy, I need to go potty. All right, okay. Daddy, I need to go. Again? Jesus, are you going to go this time? You know, I'm like a little more irritated. And I'm like, why am I more irritated? Oh, yeah, I haven't been able to hit the bag the way I need to and let that frustration and stress out.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it's the smallest thing. But like, I pay attention to the smallest details in anything I do. And this was one that I identified recently. So strongly, even if you're not gonna be a fighter, I strongly encourage you, get in a gym, feel what it's like to just release that. And you're gonna walk around with your life so much more calm and relaxed.
Yeah, you hit it right. You hit the nail right on the head. you know, whenever I train, that's a win with itself. Whatever happens after I train in the morning, and that's when I get it all out. Yeah, everything, the day is already a win, regardless of what happens, regardless if like, you know, there was maybe like a misfortune or an inconvenience to me. It's kind of like, okay, whatever, you know, if I didn't do anything for that day, I already won the day because I let all my frustrations out. I got healthier. There's just these life-changing events when you do train, whatever combat sports you do, whether it's boxing, hitting the bag, you know, for like a good 30 minutes, if it's like nice and intense.
I mean, it goes to any mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, as long as you're working hard and you're really, right?
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu, you can go really hard in your rolls. I did jiu-jitsu a few months. I really enjoyed it. It's very complex. You mentioned earlier that boxing is really complex and sophisticated. Jiu-jitsu is just
within itself,
as intense, right? The only thing I didn't like about jiu-jitsu was the moments that you sat down.
Yeah.
And you sat and you waited, and then it became like you're getting coffee with a friend after. And I've never been that type of person. Like the moment I get into the gym, I'm working. I'm not taking those little breathers. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. I probably have ADHD or something. I have to be moving and doing something, right?
Yeah.
But for me, boxing was like, all right.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. But jiu-jitsu.
That's so funny that you say that.
And no offense to that, but that's
I understand.
the only thing I didn't have.
You know what though? I think that's a product, and I'm so proud of. I want to say this. Shout out Syndicate MMA, because I think part of that is the program that's being ran.
Yeah.
Because dude, when we do jiu-jitsu at my now gym, we go 20 rounds, and these guys are competing. Shout out Shane Shapiro. He's competing at Arizona for ADCC trials. And these guys, you know, they far too often, it's like they market jiu-jitsu as like the gentle art and stuff like that. And then let's just sit down and butt scoot. No. These guys are savages. Like, we're going round after round. And if you set out a round, they'll kind of like make fun of you in like a dark humorous way, but they mean that shit. They're like, you're sitting out, bro. If you're sitting out, and just because you're tired, that means your technique sucks. You know, like, get armbarred, who cares, right? And I think that's what you're relating to, what you're talking about, that I just wanted to point that out, because it is, like I said, it just depends who you, like you, right? You're the one that sets the tone for your lovely students over here. And it just depends who runs it. It depends how the culture is and all that. Yeah.
So that's why it's important to kind of shop around and see what kind of gym. Like, the first thing I always ask people is like, what is your goal? Like, what are you coming into the gym for? Once I identify that, in our program we have 5 different ways that you could basically train in boxing, right? Kids boxing, teenager boxing, adult boxing, competitive boxing, technical boxing, boxing for fitness and cardio, strength training, fitness. We have tons of different options, right? So once I identify what their goal is, I want to trim down, I want to lose like 20 pounds. Oh, okay, boom, put you in this one. I want to become a fighter. Okay, put you in this one.
Yep.
I just want to do I want to learn, but I don't want to like take the damage. Okay, technical boxing, right? So I've created programs to kind of meet whatever needs you had, right? And so back to what you said about the competitive stage, you found a gym where it was like, this is the real thing. We're full throttle, foot's on the gas. If you don't have your foot on the gas, you're gonna fall off the truck. Right. So we have that too. Right?
Yeah.
But it's like you have to separate these programs, because some could be, you know, some don't mix together, and it's like 2 opposite batteries, right? So at the front gate, you have to identify them, be like, okay, this is the program for you, this option here. But some gyms, they only have one option. They're a little bit smaller, they don't have enough staff, they run it by themselves, things like that. Here I have about eight coaches that help me. And so each coach has their certain assignment that they take on. And I grew up doing this. So I started a kids program, started a teenager program, started an adult program, started a competitive program. Again, 15 years of this. I spent at least 3 to 5 years in each one, mastering it, making sure that it was going to be perfect the way I needed it. Then what did I do when I recruited my instructors? I took the kid that was in my class who was 5 years old, and now he's 17, 18. Guess what class he's teaching?
The kids class.
Kids. I took the teenager that went through the teenagers competitive and adult program. Guess what I did? I put him in the teenager program. And then I took a competitor who competed for 5 years, and what did I do with him? I made him the amateur boxing coach, right? So again, you have to have a good eye for these things. And if you don't, then you can't run the ship the way it needs to be ran. So a lot of people, some are stubborn. This guy is horrible, I can't do anything with him. But boxing, that's what boxing did for me. It helped me identify mistakes. It helped me identify strengths. It helped me go, okay, this is how we use this tool. This is how we use that tool. Same with people. Okay, this guy's really happy and jolly and really good and encouraging to kids. He's the kids coach. Okay, this guy's got a deeper voice. Teenage years, they're kind of going through a stage of like, I know everything. They need somebody to look up to. This is the guy.
Right.
Competitive team, I'm really nice, right? This guy's a little bit meaner. Okay, you're gonna help me with the mean side of this, right?
Yeah.
You're
identifying
the business and operations of the gym. Like, there's so much more that goes into a gym than just like, I want to open a gym and just run a gym and teach classes, and it's the best thing I've ever done. Since I opened a gym, my role completely shifted. It completely shifted. I oversee all the programs now instead of teaching them all. Not only that, on the back end, the administrative side, I have to train and develop an administrative side team to take over that as well. At first, it's all me, but you only have so much time. You need a team.
Yes, you need to delegate.
You got to delegate.
Absolutely.
Right? And so now I'm at a point where everything's been really well delegated. We're at a year and a half, a little bit over a year and a half. We're doing extremely well as a company.
Yeah, I see
and everybody's going, hey, why don't you open another location? Pump the brakes. Some things are too soon. First, I need to master this. I need to make sure that everybody's well equipped with their roles. They have all the tools on their belt they need before I just go open another one and let the thing that happens to everybody go, I opened a second one, it failed, it's the worst thing I ever did, I shouldn't have done that. So my vision, my goal is to buy a big building and have everything under one house, right? And that's gonna be stronger.
Okay. What you're talking about is like scaling up, right? And that expansion is a huge deal because overhead comes with that, like you said, hiring more staff. You're pretty much, you're a leader now, but then you're taking it to the next level.
In this industry, turnover is a big thing.
Yes.
You'll have one trainer for a few months, and then a few months later you have another trainer. So again, I trained and developed from the bottom. These guys have already been with me 10 years, right? And this model I took from In-N-Out. I worked for In-N-Out Burger for 8 years. Everybody starts at level 1.
Very nice, I like it.
Everybody starts at level 1. And they train and develop everybody. You can't just walk in there and be like, hey, I want to open a store. I got money, let's open a store. Okay. You need to be hired as a level 1. We'll train and develop you. Then you become a fourth manager, a third manager, a second manager, and then we'll consider you for a store manager. The people I worked with back then, the management group that I was under, the store I was under, probably out of, I don't know how many people were under that, but I'd say about 10 of them became store managers. One of them became a business owner for a boxing gym. Another one, everybody, this training and development, this long-rooted, like slow building process, built tons of leaders. And so I look at that model and I go, okay, how do I do that in my industry, boxing? So I'm doing the same thing. I'm grooming and developing everybody from the ground up. Everybody's got to learn how to clean the gym. Everybody's got to learn how to fix a bag. Everybody's got to learn how to do this, how to be an assistant trainer, how to be a kids trainer, how to be a teens trainer, adult trainer, competitive team, be a competitor. They have to train and develop all these things because that's what makes a perfect coach and owner. But if you don't learn these things and you just go, I'm going for it, you're not going to make it.
Not only are you teaching them discipline, you're teaching them skill sets to go further in life. And I know that we're wrapping up here soon, but tell the people, what advice would you give for, let's say both, for a boxer that's, coming up? Is it like, what advice would you have them focus on? Mindset at first, going into like a boxing gym if they're like intimidated, because it could be intimidating, right? But I say, like you said all these programs, and boxing is for everyone. If they don't want to compete, don't compete, just do the technical stuff. What advice would you give for someone going into like a boxing gym? Like, have your mind right? Or would it be like, okay, leave your ego at the door? Just anything that you have.
Don't be afraid to walk in there. Walk in there not trying to prove anything. Just walk in there, open book. Open book. There's tons of good trainers out there. You just have to walk in And you're gonna feel something special about the place if that's the place you belong. And you're gonna build a good relationship with the coach right off the bat. And if you do that, that's the place you belong. But don't walk in there trying to, like the guy we talked about earlier, oh, I'm a tough guy, I knocked out everybody. You're trying to prove something. That's the wrong way to walk into a gym. Walk in, humble. I've never boxed before. Be honest. I have a background in karate. I've done this, that, whatever. Build a relationship. That's key.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna learn who you are and what you're trying to do, and we're gonna kind of push you in the right direction.
Right.
So my main advice is just come in, not scared, not looking to prove something. Come in with an open book, because there's too much. There's tons that you can learn, and don't go in there like me. I'm ready to fight now. Mm-hmm. And my coach basically was like, no, it's going to take you 3 years to really learn this. And I was like, no, I'm going to learn it in a few months. I went in, won my first fight by knockout, broke the guy's nose, which was a great start. But he was right. There was 3 years of learning footwork, defense, punching. All I was a brawler who went in, who could take a punch. I didn't care if you hit me. I was going to definitely outwork you and outpace you and outpunch you and break you down over the course of time. But if I would have learned footwork, if I were to learn defense, if I were to learn counterpunching, if I were to learn how to catch and shoot, if I were to learn how to grab somebody, how to turn them, how to tie them, how to defeat them with my feet without even throwing a punch, I would have taken a lot less damage along the process.
Yeah.
But without adversity, you're not going to learn the big lessons. You have to get the broken nose. You have to get the messed up eyes, the jaw that can't eat, the ribs that are, because again, it teaches you to defend that body a little bit better. Mm-hmm. It teaches you not to just hang your chin out with your mouth open and eat those uppercuts. It teaches you how to catch those shots and not just let them hit you straight in the face. It teaches you how not to walk down that center line. You're dodging, you're parrying, you're slipping in, you're pressuring, right? I become a smarter fighter in time, but I had to be open to these lessons.
Right.
And again, record everything you do. Study yourself, make adjustments, listen to what your coach is saying, apply those things, show your coach that you're a student of the game, study tape, study fighters, pick your favorite fighter, watch every fight you possibly can on them. That's it, man.
Perfect, Coach. That was beautifully said. And thank you for all the knowledge. Thank you for having me here at your beautiful gym, by the way. And yeah, I got some footage that, obviously I'll show on there. But thank you for the privilege.
Of course. Thank you so much, dude.
Awesome.
Thanks for making the time for this.
Absolutely,
man.
man.
Let's do it again sometime.
Let's do it, man.